Good evening, everybody. We tried to start with the good theme song, the old school theme song, but obviously we couldn't. Had to change it there to a much slower paced. Because if you're an Inter Miami fan, Inter Miami supporter, if you're involved with Inter Miami in any capacity in a positive way, well, yesterday was a very negative night, an epic failure as far as I'm concerned. Inter Miami crashes out of the MLS Cup playoffs in not I guess it's the first round if you don't count the play-in games, but however, semantics, whatever you want to call it, Inter Miami is out. No MLS Cup to South Florida in 2024. We will discuss that as an entire team here. You see Jose Armando wearing the Miami Total Football shirt there. Kudos to Joselito for that, a.k.a. Island Jose, a.k.a. Cinco, and back on the show in full health, Andrea Yanes, a.k.a. Akisita. We'll start with you. We'll keep the pleasantry short because I know Jose's on a time constraint and we've got a lot to talk about here. So, Andrea, first off, good to see you in good health. How are you?
I'm glad to be back, finally to be back. I was sick for a couple of weeks and then I had to get back to work and I couldn't make it to a podcast last week. So I'm glad to be here. It's not because Inter Miami lost. I want to make that clear because I've heard while I was away some comments, right? But I was very sick for 2 weeks. I couldn't even talk. Franco can attest to that. But now I'm back and I'm ready to talk about what happened yesterday and the failure that is this project until this moment, because they have no official trophy to show, right? So we're gonna talk about that. We're gonna talk about our opinions and what we thought about the game yesterday.
And Andrea's also wearing pink. Very interesting, your choice of colors, guys. The only reason I'm wearing a suit, for anyone asking, is because I had a visit. I was a guest on NBC6. I'll be live, well, not live. I'll be on air at some point this evening, sometime between 11:30 to midnight. My first time doing a TV hit in person. I've done some, behind Zoom, behind the laptop, but not in person in studio. So that's why I'm dressed as such.
Dressed to impress.
Yeah, I had to look nice. It's TV. I tried.
We didn't get the memo. Jose and I are wearing our Sunday clothes. Jose is wearing at least the clothes of the show, right? But
yeah, if he would have told us, I would have said let's wear it. Although I did do laundry today and I did wash mine, so it would have been very wrinkled had Jose told me to put it on. I did not get to dry it yet. Jose, how are you, my friend? I already know you and I are going to have choice of words. We're going to probably debate pretty strongly here.
Yeah, this should be fun. This should be a lot of fun. Well, I'll share a lot of stuff about last night. At some point, this is something that I haven't told you guys. I felt like it was, I got the sense of the last game. How we felt that way before. In previous seasons with Inter Miami. Because we knew that was the last game, right? Because we haven't had the chance to, cover a proper playoff scenario for Inter Miami where we don't actually know. But we knew.
That's not true. They played New York City FC and Higuain's last season on the road.
Right, but we were not there.
True.
So last night I got that feeling at some point. I felt like, and this was before the match. Got a feeling like this could be the last game, and it started to hit me. Then I obviously thought about the game, and I always thought they had a chance. Even late in the second half, I thought they had a chance. But I got that vibe, so I'll share everything, all the little things that happened last night. Like you mentioned, it was not fun for the fans, but it was interesting, an interesting game to cover, no doubt.
So, a lot to talk about, a lot to analyze, a lot to debate about. Lionel Messi's performance, Luis Suarez, was he good enough in this series? The team in general, defensive deficiencies, Tata Martino's tactics. We're going to try to do as thorough a playoff autopsy here as possible. But there's so much to talk about. There's so much that could be said. So this will probably go long into, the next few weeks, because obviously when you fail like this, there's just got to be changes, right? There has to be changes. So we'll talk about all of that, but we'll start with last night's game. But I can't go without saying thank you to all the listeners. Thank you to all the viewers who are tuning in. The comment section, as you can imagine, after a game and a development like yesterday's,
Put
is
some comments on front.
full of
Joe.
action.
Let's
Andrea,
hear
your
He's
what.
mic.
filtering comments already.
No, I
Just like he
haven't.
did for the entire season, he's
Oh, here we
doing it
go.
again tonight.
Here we go. Andrea, by the way, your gain just shot up through the roof, so now you sound really, really loud. Just FYI. But yeah, the comment section. There we go. We've seen, and this is gonna happen, right? We've got comments from Catra Loco. First time I've ever seen Catra Loco comment. Why you people put on the clip bait Messi failure? Y'all full of shit. Okay. Well, listen. Here on Miami Total Football Radio, the show, aka Miami Total Football Radio, the show. We call it like we see it. We're not Messi fans. We're not Inter Miami fans.
Yes.
We just call it like we see it as media members, seasoned media members, journalists, reporters. We're supposed to be neutral. We're supposed to be unbiased. We're supposed to be objective. So we're going to call it like we see it. You might agree. You might not agree. And I expect that a lot of the Messi fans, I said this on my hit. I don't know if it'll make it or I don't know if it'll get edited out. I compared it to kind of fan base. Because anytime you criticize Messi, rightly or wrongly, you know, these swarm of fans will come at you on X or on Twitter and defend him full throttle. So listen, you guys are allowed to have your opinion, just like we're allowed to have our opinion. If you disagree, no problem. We can talk about it. We can, like Tata Martino told me yesterday, we could have a debate about it. No, not a debate. We can have an exchange of opinions, not a debate, an exchange of opinions. I'm sure we'll have a lot of exchanging of opinions here. All right, so we'll start. Get into it. Inter Miami gets knocked out of the playoffs by Atlanta United, the number 9 seed, knocking Inter Miami at home at Chase Stadium in South Florida on Saturday night. Inter Miami loses the series 2-1. They had the initial lead in the series, winning the first match at home, lose at Atlanta, and then lose in South Florida. Knocked out. There will be no MLS Cup in Fort Lauderdale, in Miami. This year, everything pointed to that being the case, but it was not. We will start with Andrea, since we haven't heard from you in a bit, and you know the conspiracy theorists are out there probably saying that you're back because you're ready to criticize the team. So, Andrea, just very quickly, because we have a lot to dive into. So try to keep it brief for all of us here in this beginning part. Just your overall thoughts on what the hell happened last night.
Well, it was an unacceptable performance by Inter Miami, starting with Tata's choice. I don't think the formation was wrong, but I think he made a decision that influenced the result at the end by bringing Benjamin Kremaski into the starting lineup and not bringing other players that could have done a better job to bring balance to the team. I think that was the first red flag for me yesterday. Then the attitude of the players, because we were talking about Messi, but also Suarez, who I cannot explain how he didn't get a red card, because he deserved at least 3 yellow cards in 3 different occasions. Everyone is talking today about when Campana pushed Guzan and then Luis Suarez came and insulted him and pushed him again. That was one instance, but then before that, when he flopped looking for a penalty, that is a yellow card. So very disappointing show by Luis Suarez. Messi scored a goal and he tried to look for plays and had some dangerous opportunities, but it wasn't his normal showing. He didn't seem comfortable in the field. I was at field level. He didn't seem comfortable in the field. He lost the ball. He had always 3 or 4 players in Atlanta coming up to him, and when he lost the ball, he didn't even make an effort to go and try to get it back. So I think the physical language of the players wasn't there since the beginning, since the start of the match. I think they were too confiados. Maybe that's a word, too confiados, too confident that Atlanta was going to be an easy task. an easy win for them here at home, because since the great campaign they had at home, I thought that you could see that. And then after everything began happening, I didn't see any garra, huevos, like we say in Spanish, from no one on the team. No one on the team.
Fights.
Nothing. So when Atlanta scored, and I didn't see anything like we say in Spanish, vamos pongan huevos, like people were singing, La Familia was singing yesterday. You didn't see any of that. So since Atlanta scored the first goal, I thought this is going to be a long night, and this could be a night where Inter Miami.
There were some players from Inter Miami.
Hold on, Jose. Sorry. Yellow card to Ajicita. I said brief, Ajicita. I know you want to get a lot off your chest. It's been several weeks for you, or multiple weeks. But Andrea, brief, and Andrea obviously do not.
My three conclusions. Okay, Tata Martino got it wrong with who he brought into the formation. The team was too confident in thinking that they would win, and when Atlanta scored that goal, you didn't see anything else. Even when Miami scored, Messi scored his tying goal, you didn't see anything from Inter Miami. You didn't see passion. You didn't see that. It simply wasn't there. It wasn't there.
Tank 721 gives you a yellow card. Our resident referee here on Miami Total Football Radio, the show. Jose, I know you wanted to say something, but I have to rebuttal, and this is where it's going to start getting feisty here. It's going to start getting spicy. I agree with you that Tata Martino got it wrong. I don't necessarily agree that he got it wrong because Benjamin Kremaski was starting up there. I go back to, and Jose, this is where you're going to get to defend yourself.
Right.
He got it wrong with the lineup. He got it wrong with the formation, because Inter Miami's weakness this entire season, it's not a secret to anybody here, and I already know this. There was a comment here in the comment section. I'm trying to find it while I try to say this. I'll find it in a second. That's how many comments are coming in. Inter Miami's defense has been its weakness through large parts of the season, if not the entire season. That's why we've seen a back five for much of this year, especially as of late. That's why we saw a back five in the first two games. They switched to a back four. Tata makes a decision to switch to a backboard, like Jose Armando has been wanting. Yes, you gotta attack. You have to take the ball. You have to go at Atlanta United. Atlanta United won't be able to stop you. And you have, especially for Matias Rojas, who started in this game. Sure, yes, he scored.
Thank you.
But what happened by taking away a defender from that back five, or from that back line? Back five turned to a back four. More spaces for Atlanta United to exploit on the counter, which you knew Atlanta United was going to do. Atlanta United wasn't going to come into Chase Stadium and try to fight Inter Miami for position. They were going to let Inter Miami have the ball. They were going to sit back. They were going to try to hit on the counter in whatever space Inter Miami left. And with a back four, Inter Miami opened the doors for Atlanta United to play its game. It literally played into Atlanta United.
But none of the goals came because an open space. One came because of a rebound. The other one came because
came from the counter.
Yeah.
None of the goals came from the counter.
No.
None
of the goals came from the counter.
So Atlanta United was knocking the ball around, and they just broke down into Miami's defense.
Okay, let's go through the goals. Mm-hmm. Do you want to go through the goals?
Let's go for it.
Let's go through the goals. Mm-hmm. Okay, first goal is a pass from the middle of the field deflected on Fede Redondo. Mm-hmm. You know, all defenders are very well positioned.
Hold on, you're echoing for some reason. I don't know why you're echoing.
I don't know.
It's you or Andrea.
Let me go back. I will be back.
Just mute your microphone. Yeah. Okay. So, first goal, there's a deflection on Fede Redondo that, you know, goes straight to the Atlanta United striker. Takes the shot on goal. I mean, great finish. Nothing to do with the four-man backline at that point. All defenders were very well positioned. That could have happened with a five-man backline as well. Second goal, it's a mistake coming out of the back from David Martinez. He gives the ball away. Quick transition from Atlanta United. Again, give them credit. They were able to move the ball around. 2-3 touches, and they were already, you know, in front of goal. And the third goal, obviously, everybody was inside the box. The problem was that Toto Aviles worked against his own team
Yes.
because he couldn't stand for 2 seconds, and he was the main distraction as the ball was coming in from the left across and the clear header inside the box. None of the goals are related to the four-man back line. Now,
No,
you
incorrect.
get the impression.
Incorrect.
I
You
agree
get
with
the
Jose.
impression.
None of the goals.
I wish we could show highlights, but we can't show highlights because Apple has the rights to all of it.
Mhm.
It's not like MLS back in the days. They were like,
Is that what? That's not what happened.
look, I mean, I think I can show you images, right? I don't have to show you the highlight, but look, this is the broadcast, right? This is the first goal. And I don't know how well you're going to see. This is when the ball is deflected from Fer Redondo into the path, right?
Right. It's 4 against 1.
No, David Martinez and Thomas Aviles, I don't know if you can see it that well, they're both closing in on the same striker, leaving a massive hole for the other striker to get in. Is it a lucky
That
deflection?
has nothing to do with a four-man back line. That's not a counter-attack situation.
If there is a third center back in there, David Martinez is not coming in. There would be Noah Allen would be standing there, or whoever would
if
be
you
playing,
have 6 players there, there's going to be less room. That you're stating the obvious. But the matter of the fact is that if that ball doesn't get deflected, the Atlanta striker doesn't get that chance.
Okay,
but
he
did
get deflected.
You cannot control deflections. You cannot predict deflections.
Why are David Martinez and Toto Aviles both marking the same play? Why are they both going to the same play?
The ball was going the other way.
Okay.
They were both where they were supposed to be.
So what? So two center backs go mark the same man.
Franco, because the ball got deflected. It's not.
They were supposed to be.
The ball can
And
be
if that's
deflected
the
3
case,
times.
you're
It doesn't mean
arguing.
you go double mark somebody and leave somebody else wide open.
Well,
If
then
there was
you're
a third
arguing against
striker,
a mistake,
would
an
happen.
individual mistake. Either Toto or David Martinez made a mistake. They didn't have a good read on the ball. That's not related to having a 4 or 5-man backline.
I agree.
You are comparing that to having more people behind the ball. That's what you're comparing, but you're not
Yeah,
comparing.
and it's
let's
what
start
happened
the
in the
setup.
third goal because
start
everyone
again.
was there.
Let's
Everyone was
start at
there.
the beginning. Let's start at the beginning. When this season started, where was the main issue for Inter Miami? In preseason to CONCACAF Champions Cup to the beginning of the season, where did we see Inter Miami's biggest weakness?
Defensively, yes.
Defensive.
Defensively. Okay. So maybe it wasn't due to the counterattack, but Inter Miami went to a back 5 and they won. They won the Supporter Shield as the best regular season team in MLS regular season history. Because
But they were not the best team in MLS history.
They found a way. I'm not arguing that. They found a way to mask those defensive deficiencies. They still had them with the back 5. They would still pop up every now and then, but they masked them. And going away from the back 5 in a playoff game against a team that you know is going to sit back, that you know is going to counter, that you know is going to just try to take its chances when it can get them, that played right into Atlanta United's hands. Tata Martino.
No, I don't agree with that because I think Tata made the right decision.
I think we saw it in the previous game.
Exactly. They lost in Atlanta with the back 5.
You know, the goal.
They switched to a back 4 when they lost. They switched to the back 4 when they were looking to push on for the winner. That's when they lost in Atlanta. And that goal proved
they were looking for penalties in that moment. Tata made the changes because thinking about penalties.
At that point, within the game, Atlanta was able to create opportunities as well. So, yeah, I think...
I agree with Simon. Look, read Simon's comment because that's what comes to play, bringing in Benjamin Kremaski because he was the odd man out yesterday in that midfield. Had to bring
Simon Evans comment section says the defensive problem is in the midfield too. Simon is correct because in this game Yannick Bright was missing. Yannick Bright, who is the defensive muscle. Busquets, you could put him there at the 6. He's not giving you that defensive work rate. He's not masking. He's not blanketing the back 4 or the back 5 and providing a lot of muscle and steering.
Yeah, he provides for Messi.
Sure, but again, the problem wasn't
Redondo, Diego Gomez, and Benjamin Kremaski didn't provide anything.
Okay, Busquets didn't start this game. He was cleared to play, but clearly wasn't at his best. He was on the bench at the beginning of this one. Came in the second half. So Tata had his hands tied behind his back. There weren't that many options for him in that center of the park. He went with a 4-3-3-ish, 4-4-2, depending on how you want to look at it. Rojas, Messi, and Suarez up top. Your 3 midfielders, sometimes 4, were Cremaschi, Gressel, Cremaschi, Redondo, Diego Gomez. There was nobody else. Who are you going to play in the center of the midfield with the lack of options you have? I cannot blame Tata Martino for putting in Benjamin Cremaschi. There just is nobody else. I mean,
of course you can. Benjamin Cremaschi had the worst season. He hasn't played. He didn't play in the Olympics. He was injured. Gressel. How come you play Gressel the whole season and now you don't bring him when he is the one that has had more experience in that midfield, more than Benjamin Cremaschi?
Look,
it doesn't make sense.
I'll put it this way. If you reflect on the season and on the way that Tata Martino changed the formation from a back four to a back five, and it did work, how can you not reflect on the seasons that Julian Gressel and Benja Cremaschi had? I mean, you have to take it both ways. So you kind of have to reflect on what you have seen from Benja Cremaschi lately and what you have seen from Julian Gressel lately. So
that's where Tata got it wrong. That's where Tata got it
exactly. Wrong. That's what we are saying. See, that was the first mistake.
It's not because of Benjamin Cremaschi. The issue was that he took away a defender from a team that has issues.
He didn't perform. That's the issue. He didn't perform.
Jose, listen, there's a lot of blame to go around for this one, but it starts with Tata. For me, it starts with Tata, and he got the lineup wrong. He did the complete opposite of what had been working for him.
It didn't work in Atlanta, Franco. He had to try, and he didn't.
Andrea, how many shots did Atlanta United have on target yesterday? Do you know? Do you want me to pull it up? I can pull it up for you guys.
Pull it up.
All right. These are the game 3 stats. These are how many shots Atlanta United got on target. 4 shots on target. Out of those 4, they put the ball in the back of the net 3 times. That shows you that they were scoring at a high rate. Their efficiency, su efectividad, is high. Now, why is that? Because they have some incredible strikers in Atlanta? No, because the looks they're getting are clear. Because Inter Miami's defense is weak, and Inter Miami exposed themselves.
No, because if that was the case, Franco, then they would have had more shots on target. If that was the case, they would have had more shots on target. If they got a lot of like you just said, they had a lot of looks for getting goals. They didn't. They scored in the 3 opportunities that they had. They were effective.
They also hit the
thing that Inter Miami wasn't.
The post in the opening minutes. They hit the post, and everyone was like, "Uh-oh."
I think there's a situation here where, obviously Tata Martino went offensive minded, and I commend him for doing that because I think that should be the nature of this team.
Yeah.
If they were to capitalize on a couple of chances, we're probably not having this conversation right now.
Yeah.
And we're going through, they were not great defensively, but, they showed how talented they are.
Like they did in the whole season.
We wouldn't care about it. But,
that's why
I think going back to the goals, which we proved that none of them came from the counterattack. I think, we get the sense because of the 1v1 situations that we saw, which, mainly they were managed okay. I mean, there were some good plays defensively from Toto. There were some good plays defensively from David Martinez and from Jordi Alba. It's not easy to win those 1v1 situations, and they won a lot of them. I mean, Atlanta, they were not able to score on those opportunities. So that's why I point out to the middle of the field, because I felt like you needed to have the ball, with a better understanding of what you wanted to do. And for me, Benja Cremaschi did not help defensively. And when he needed to move the ball around, his passes were not really what the team needed at that time.
And Tata was limited there. He was limited in that regard, who his center midfield options were. Now, you could say Julian Gressel should have started. You could say that. But Julian Gressel's game is not a defensive game. Not like he's a super recuperador de pelotas. He doesn't win the ball back at an
but he had played more with these players and played better than what Benjamin Cremaschi has played in the 5 games he has played this season.
It's a fair question. Why did Julian Gressel not get any minutes or
So for me, this is an example of what I've been telling you the whole year. That's why Tata Martino, for me, has never been the coach of the year in the MLS, because this is exactly what happened. And as Jose just said, if Suarez had scored the chance that Brad Guzan stopped at the line. If Suarez has scored the last chance that they had and Brad Guzan, we would be talking Inter Miami won, and people will be mad at me because I would say they won because of Messi and Suarez, but they don't play well. They didn't play. For me, they didn't. Tata Martino has had these the Cuatro Fantásticos, these great players, and had more great players because you had Matias Rojas, you had Robert Taylor, you had Leonardo Campana, you had Diego Gomez. This team should be the best team in MLS, the best play in MLS. So to me, it's unfair to blame the players, to play the defense, to blame this and that, and not blame Tata Martino because his tactics have not been good for the whole year. This team doesn't play well and hasn't played well. And yesterday, as I said at the beginning, is the proof of that because Tata Martino apostó for me the correct way to try and win a playoff game in your house. To go offensively, you played about 5 and you lost. You lost the last game.
Andrea, you're talking about preference.
You play to win, right? And that's what he did. The gamble didn't work, and it's on him.
Reality with the team. The style and preference is not the same as what the reality of this team is. Look, Yannick Bright is out. You've lost a lot of defensive muscle, right? Who's next? Again, Julian Gressel, Benjamin Kramaski, neither one of them are great ball winners. Neither one of them. You can say Julian Gressel has more experience than Benjamin Kramaski. Absolutely. But with the way Tata played yesterday, a 4-3-3 that turned into a 4-4-2 defensively, where does Julian Gressel fit? It would have had to have been Julian Gressel in for Matias Rojas. That was the only move that would have made sense because Julian Gressel does not play as a central midfielder. He has not played as a central midfielder this entire season. He's played as un interior tirado por la derecha, so like as a shuttler on the right side. He's played on the right wing. He's played on the left wing, but he's never played as a central.
And you put Matias Rojas in midfield, and you change Gressel or Diego Gomez. There are ways.
The bottom line here is he played with a
Tata doesn't have ideas for what he has.
He went attack.
We know the result. But there's no guarantee.
He gave you what he wanted. He gave you what you wanted, and it didn't work. Like I told you, it would not work. You open yourself up on a defense that's already weak to be weaker. And then
so now you agree with us then that Miami would have won against Cincinnati and Columbus then because of what you're saying, that if you open up, you don't win.
Cincinnati and Columbus didn't even make it past the first round either, Andrea. So
I'll tell you this. I think you can obviously talk about it now because of the way it happened
with the result.
But we can
I said it to you before the game. I can tweet it. This is not revisionist history. I'm not saying this because they lost. I said it yesterday to you.
With the back five, they lost in Atlanta.
There's no guarantee as well
that barely
if they play
won
with a 5-man backline, the result is different. Because they're still missing Boosie and they're still missing Yannick Bright. Those two players were also important for the 5-man backline to work. So, you telling me that if they go back to a 5-man backline, even without Boosie and without Yannick Bright, that's not giving me any guarantees that it's going to work because they are not going to be on the field. And that's mainly the reason why Tata decided to make the change, probably. Because he didn't have confidence. He didn't have confidence on the players that he would need to put in those positions to succeed. So,
listen,
I mean, we can go for days here, Franco. We can go for days. But
let's go. We talked a few days ago. You and I, on this podcast. And who did we say was going to be who did we predict to be the defensive midfielder?
Can you prove right now that if they go to a 5-man backline, they win?
No, of course you can't prove it. You cannot prove it. Okay, so who did you and I say? Who did you and I say was going to be the defensive midfielder? Who did you and I say? Who did you and I say was going to be the defensive midfielder?
Gressel. We agree with Gressel.
No. We didn't say Gressel. We said Fede Redondo would be the 6.
Right. Yeah.
Right? So, okay. And you said 4-3-3 with Rojas as the winger. Right? I had it as a 5-3-2 with Redondo as the 6, or el 5 if you want to talk about it in Spanish, which is 6 is not 5, but anyway, it's soccer jargon. He did not do that. He did not play Redondo as just a 6 by himself. He didn't play him alone as a defensive midfielder. He used a double pivot because he probably didn't think that neither Fede Redondo nor Benjamin Kramaski are good enough defensively to just do the job by themselves. So his lineup was wrong. He got the lineup wrong from the start. If you want to focus on the back four, you can focus on the back four. If you want to focus on the midfield, focus on the midfield. You can even take it a step further because if you know right? You're going to be an attack-minded team, and you are going to have the ball and create chances, and maybe, like Tata Martino says, tomar riesgos, take risks at the back. Then your attack needs to be better than whatever shortcomings your defense has. And the attack wasn't good enough. So that's another element here that you can point at. Messi was not good enough. Suarez was not good enough.
The three things I told you. Yes.
Of course, he wasn't good enough in this game. Like, let's talk about who had a good game yesterday for Inter Miami. Which players could you sit here and say that player had an okay game to good game?
I think Jordi.
Jordi Alba. I would say Jordi Alba.
Maybe he missed one pass that was key actually, but I think overall he had a good game. He missed an easy pass for his standard. I think it was late in the second half. A cross coming in and Suarez tries to get to it, but it was just too high. So he missed that one. But other than that, I think he had a good performance.
Says Bright was only good for 6 games in quotation marks, and then he cites it as host is saying.
Right.
That,
there's no guarantee. He didn't play last night. So you can't tell me.
Just people are trying to cope. That is a coping mechanism. But the bottom line are the 3 things I told you at the beginning. Tata Martino, Messi and Luis Suarez didn't perform. The whole team didn't perform. And when Atlanta scored, no one from that team came from the bootstraps. As I saw Atlanta United when they went down, when Messi tied, no one from Inter Miami came and said, come on, let's go look for this. I didn't see one player from Inter Miami do that. Atlanta, you saw it. You saw Guzman.
Pibe Pajín, which I imagine is Argentine, based off the emoji of Messi with the World Cup trophy and the fact that he has Pibe in his username, says Messi played a really great game. You guys just talk shit after shit. All right, Pibe, let's see if Messi had a very good game yesterday. Because he did score, right? He scored.
Stats up, please.
Absolutely. Absolutely, we're bringing stats up.
Messi's not judged by stats. If not,
that's judged by everything, brother. That's why he gets paid when he gets paid. All right, there you go. Messi's 3 games in this series. He gets 1 assist and 1 goal. His goal was nice yesterday. Nice headed finish that he helped start the sequence. 1 goal and 1 assist in 3 games against Atlanta United, the 9th seed. That's not good enough. That's not good enough. I don't care if his name is Messi. I don't care if he's won the World Cup. I don't care that he's 36 years old or 37 years old. I don't care. He gets paid millions of dollars to be the guy. And what did we see yesterday when the going got tough? Yeah, he scored 1 goal. And then he started taking free kicks into the wall, started misplaying passes, started trying to take players on and losing the ball uncharacteristically. It was not a good performance for Messi, not only in this game, in the entire series. It just wasn't good enough. You can point the finger at el funcionamiento del equipo. You could say that the team wasn't set up to help him succeed. Listen, great players, and I'm not saying he's not a great player, but great players step up in the biggest moments, and that's what he was supposed to do here, and he did not. He did not do enough. 1 goal for this team in this moment was not enough. They needed more from him, as well as Luis Suarez. I have Luis Suarez stats too if you want to look at them. They just weren't good enough. If those 2 players, who are your goal scorers, your biggest threats in the attack, they have to do their job. They have to put the ball in the back of the net. They have to create for others if they're not creating for themselves. And they didn't do enough of that in this season.
Especially because with those 2 salaries are more than what the whole squad in Atlanta make, because Thiago Almada and Giacomakis left. They don't have any designated players. So what Messi and Suarez, Busquets and Jordi Alba are making is triple what Atlanta made, the players from Atlanta made, and you didn't see that heart in them. When the team needed them, they did not appear. All from the exception of Jordi Alba. What I saw from Messi and Suarez yesterday was not in their standard. And the behavior, Luis Suarez behavior was atrocious, like vintage Luis Suarez behavior. And that's not good because you brought them here to win. And at the end of the day, you analyzed the season and you saw failure in CONCACAF Champions League, total failure. You saw failure in League Cup, total failure. Failure in MLS, total failure. For me, Supporter Shields, please don't bring it up because it's a good accomplishment. Yes, it's gonna stay on the records, but it's nothing. The trophy is not even official, not even recognized by CONCACAF. So for me, that's nothing. So it's a total failure and it's not acceptable. And they bear responsibility, as Tata bears responsibility, and the whole team was just disappointing. And an interim coach won the battle. Players that executed the plan that Rob Valentino had for the game yesterday and for the game in Atlanta and for the first game, because let's remember the first game was very close, also very close, and
I
Inter
think
Miami.
Atlanta won it fair and square. I
Exactly,
think
Inter
they won it
Miami.
fair and square. They won two
Absolutely.
out of
They
the
were
three games.
they executed their game plan better.
Yeah.
Catra Loco says I'm out. Esta gente no sabe ni verga de fútbol. Catra, we wish you the best. But if you don't like the opinion that Messi didn't play well, because listen, 1 goal, 1 assist, that's not overwhelming. That's not overwhelming. I don't care what you say. 3 games. Again, this is Inter Miami, number 1 seed in the Eastern Conference, playing Atlanta United, number 9 seed in the Eastern Conference. They had I think 34-point gap in the standings.
And Atlanta having traveled to Orlando first, then to Montreal, then back to Atlanta, then to Miami, back to Atlanta, and to Miami in a span of 10 days, right?
Está bien. All that considered, just based off of on paper, and obviamente los partidos se juegan. These games, you have to play them. They are not, decided on paper. But there was a 34-point gap, if I'm not mistaken, between the two. It's the largest in MLS history. And this was not a one-off game where you could say there was a bad call or a fluky bounce or an off night. There was 3 games for Inter Miami to take care of business, and they blew it. The best team in MLS regular season history with arguably the best player of all time and a decent cast around him, if I must say. Decent. More than decent.
Exactly. Yeah.
They couldn't get it done. That's an epic failure across the board. And Messi does not get absolved of blame because he's Messi. Nobody saves themselves in this one. Nobody. Maybe Jordi Alba. Although I wouldn't even say that he's completely blameless here, because on the 3rd goal where Inter Miami gives up, or they take their foot off the pedal a little bit because Thomas Alves is on the ground and they want Atlanta United to stop playing or to play the ball out, and they don't. Jordi Alba standing right there when the cross is whipped in, and he allows the free header into the back of the net, and then he starts.
Campana.
No, it was Jordi Alba. I saw the replay.
It's Campana there, but regardless, I mean, Jordi's not here to.
Also, Campana came in. Campana was one that came in and showed a different mentality.
Yeah, I mean, to that
fought
point,
for the ball.
Yeah, to that point, I think there were players that they did. I mean, at least I saw that they wanted to bring some energy. I think Chelo Wagan, which I have criticized because in that 5-man backline he didn't offer a lot moving forward. He got an assist yesterday, but also he showed me that he really wanted it. He was hurt, and he continued to play for the full 90 minutes. Not like Toto Aviles. I don't know what happened to Toto, but again, maybe I'm a little bit old school here, and I believe a player should stay on the field and as much as they can, especially in that moment. And I agree with Andrea that Leonardo Campana came in and he had a good showing. And we were talking about this on our way back. How is it possible that Leonardo Campana comes in the second half, and late in the game, when it's crunch time, Campana gets a lot more touches on the ball than Lionel Messi? How in the world is that possible? How?
Yeah.
I mean,
explain it.
How can we not blame Messi for this?
A bad showing. Bad showing from Messi and Suarez.
Messi was a passenger. Unless the ball came to him, he wasn't trying to get overly involved, come down, find it, create. He did during the game, right? During the course of the game. And a lot of his best moments where he was, picking passes from deep. Those were his best moments here. But when the going got tough and it was crunch time and Inter Miami needed to find a goal, he I won't say he disappeared, but he faded a little bit. His impact when he's supposed to take the game by the scruff of the neck and step up and get on the ball more and try to make things happen, you saw less of that. And that absolutely, you could say again, Tata's tactics. You could say teammates didn't get him the ball. That also
it's a combination, Franco. Bottom line is, if you're on the field, you're Messi, you're playing against Atlanta United, you're in the first round of the MLS playoffs, you are not allowing yourself to go out like that. So you kind of have to show something and, at least rally the troops. But not even that.
Not that's what I was saying. Like no one from Inter Miami, the captains, no one was coming and going around like Brad Guzan was telling everyone, "Come on, let's go. You got this, go do that." No one in Inter Miami, not Messi, not Luis Suarez, just Campana. I saw Campana, Busquets when he came in, the couple of minutes that he played, maybe Xavi, and no one. And then it's it was super interesting to me because when I talked to Drake Callender in the mix zone, I asked him what was said in the locker room, and the response he gave me, everyone was by themselves. No one talked, no one gave a speech. So it means there was no leadership, no accountability from the team. So that's actually preoccupying because you would have thought that in that moment they would want it more, right? Because they were
I think someone could have said something, but what do you say in this point? You're a team that just got knocked out of the playoffs. What do you
no,
say?
but not just
Okay,
only in the
next
locker
year.
room. I mean, in the field, no one was coming in and discussing what they can do, how they could go for. No one was doing that. No one from Inter Miami was doing that, and Atlanta did that constantly with their coach, with the players that were coming in. And Inter Miami, you didn't see that. You didn't see that from Tata. He was
I think Justin
shouting.
had a good point.
Oh, read the comment.
Just,
I couldn't
Yeah.
see.
I had it up, but I gotta go back and find
Yeah,
it.
Justin had a good point. Well, basically, he was talking about,
You got it. He says,
yeah,
and so it's time to fire Messi, Suarez, and Tata and go back to Phil Neville. Yes, that version of Inter Miami is so much better than this current version. Wonderful.
right.
I mean,
You-
no
look,
one is saying go back to that. No one is
No.
saying go back to that. But we're saying this version of the team is better than what we saw yesterday. And that
If
includes
anything-
Lionel Messi.
look, guys. If anything, what we're doing is paying respect to what Messi has done throughout his career. If we don't do that, we will be here and we will be blaming anybody else for what happened. But we expect a lot more from Lionel Messi because of the standard that he has established throughout his career. So this is showing respect to one of the best players in the history of the game. We cannot take from him this type of performances against this opponent and at this stage of the season. We have to demand a lot more from him. He's a world champion. You don't expect regular players to outperform everybody else in this situation. You expect the top players to perform. And that's why we're demanding this from him. You know, obviously, Inter Miami was a lot worse, but this team was not built to be better than Phil Neville's Inter Miami.
Exactly.
This team was built to win championships. Now, if you wanted to be better than Inter Miami prior to Messi, you didn't need to bring Messi. You could have done with a lot less and a lot cheaper. So, and
this team was built to win titles, and in a year and a half,
and it didn't.
and
That's what I was saying. It's a total failure.
A year and a half, they have one Leagues Cup trophy,
and they lost U.S. Open Cup. If
Supporter Shield, which isn't a title, but they have a trophy. This project, este proyecto, to this point, has been a failure. You could talk about Messi and him helping Inter Miami come from the ground and the roots and from the gravel and all the crap that was on top of them, and they've become a more respectable team, a team that's now talked about fondly in MLS because of how good it can be. Sure, you could talk about that, but that's not what this team was about. This team was about winning trophies, and they have one. You could argue two, but that they don't have the biggest prizes in a year and a half, and that reflects on everybody.
Right.
Next year, there's no other way. They have to win next year. If they don't, this whole project was a letdown. This whole thing failed because this is not about marketing. This is not about selling Messi jerseys. This is not about money. This is about sports. This is about results. And Inter Miami, a year and a half into this project, has not gotten it done when it matters most. One Leagues Cup and one Supporter Shield. If that's all they get from 2.5 years, maybe 3.5 years if Messi stays in 2026, if that's all they get with him here, then I think that's a big failure, an epic failure. They need more. Next year, they can't repeat this. Next year, they have to win MLS Cup no matter what. No matter what. Otherwise, this whole thing is going to be looked at negatively.
Yeah, and next year, obviously, they have the challenge as well of Club World Cup right in the middle of the season. Now they're going to have a quick turnaround as well in Champions Cup. They should start play in the first week of February, so that's a very quick turnaround as well. Preseason, should be getting started early January. So, I another talking point for me late in the game was, players look exhausted. Players look exhausted, and I thought, Atlanta United at any given point they never showed like they were lacking, physicality. I think they were consistent. They were ready to perform. And into Miami, to me, there were some players that I just couldn't see them move the ball around. I just couldn't see how clear headed they should have been at that point. And that's something that we asked about before the game. How can the big names help the rest of the team? And I didn't see that connection. I didn't see that. That tells me that during the week there were no conversations about, look guys, things might go wrong at some point, but just calm down. We'll figure it out. Just
Yeah.
find a way to get the ball to Messi. Find a way to feed Suarez inside the box. Let's try and do this and that. I didn't see that. To me, those conversations never happened.
We've listened to the three of us talk for 47 minutes. Let's listen to some of the protagonists, starting with Tata Martino. And, well, was this a failure?
No, no, éxito cuando uno queda eliminado acá en cuartos de final, no. Ha tenido cosas buenas, ha tenido cosas malas. Si uno piensa dónde estábamos en noviembre del año pasado, evidentemente hay un progreso en lo que se refiere al club, no solamente al equipo. Si uno piensa en las expectativas que teníamos para este playoff, evidentemente nos hemos quedado demasiado cortos.
For the first time, probably, he kind of directly addresses whether it's been a success or not for the first time. And he says at the end there, clearly they fell very short of what their expectations were for the postseason, which is not a lie. It's not a lie. No one here can say that they expected Inter Miami to crash out in the first round of the playoffs with 2 games at home. I mean, this team, Inter Miami team, lost 4 times in the regular season, just 4 times. 4 times. And in a 3-game series, they lost twice to Atlanta United. And they didn't lose on penalty kicks. They lost in the 90 minutes plus stoppage time. So terrible, epic failure from a team that had much higher expectations. And you can chalk it up to some injuries. You could chalk it up to maybe some unsportsmanship if you want from Atlanta United, although Inter Miami also kept playing when an Atlanta United player was down in the first half. They just didn't get a goal out of it. So you can point the finger at a lot of things. Regardless, this was an epic failure, and the season has been a failure. They did not do what they needed to do. They had to win MLS Cup, and they just fell short. In the biggest moment in the playoffs, which you could say is fair, unfair. Jordi Alba said yesterday he thinks the format is unfair. This is the format. And this is the time where in MLS, players etch themselves in their team histories and league history by what they do when the lights shine brightest. And yesterday, Inter Miami did not cover themselves in glory.
Plus, they are not the ones to complain about the format because, the first 2 matches ended up in 2-1 score, right? 2-1.
Mm-hmm.
So they
2-1,
would have
2-1.
ended up tied if the aggregate score mattered and there were only home and away matches. So, I mean, I don't think Inter Miami can complain about the format. I think there are some other teams around the league that can.
Real Salt Lake can complain about the format
Yeah,
because
they
they
can
didn't
complain
lose
about
and
the format.
they went out on penalties on
Not
2 games.
not Inter Miami.
Mhm. I agree with that.
I haven't really talked about that, not even tonight, but even in general on Twitter, just because I think that's not a really big talking point here. Like, it might be Jordi Alba's opinion, whatever you want, and you could argue on a bigger picture, like, does MLS need to change the format, whatever. But in this instance, with regards to Inter Miami, it's not why they lost the series. They lost the series because they were not good enough. The attack was not good enough. They scored 4 goals in 3 games, with 2 of those games being at home. That's not good enough. That's
Right.
just not.
Especially for what
doesn't
they had
play.
done in the season, right? For Messi and Luis Suarez
He's good. And
scoring 20 goals in a season, and you would expect that they could score against the worst team, because Atlanta is the worst team on the playoffs. The worst team in the regular season on the playoffs is Atlanta United. They qualified last minute for the play-in. And then the play they won, fighting for it, but they were the worst team in the from all the teams that qualified to the playoffs. They are the worst team, and you had Messi and Luis Suarez that scored 40 goals between them. And then you have players like Matias Rojas, Robert Taylor, and Leonardo Campana, who also scored a lot of goals during the season. And you couldn't score against Atlanta in your turf, in your house, with the referee not giving yellow cards to Luis Suarez, and with Atlanta United giving you fouls that were exactly the same as the one that Messi scored against Cruz Azul last year, and Messi left. The last one was like the one that he scored with Cruz Azul, but he left those two free kicks in La Barrera. So that's no excuse for that, right?
Yeah,
When a
I
player
think
does that, if it was another player, we would have been talking about that. Oh, he had two chances and he couldn't make it.
I think we would be remiss as a trio if we don't, and we haven't done it really, commend the job that Atlanta United did defensively. They did a hell of a job. They executed their game plan. They took their chances. Look, really quickly for both of you, who was the MVP of this series? Very quickly, Jose.
Brad Guzan.
Andrea.
Brad Guzan.
Franco. Brad Guzan. So Brad Guzan stepped up. He elevated his game to help Atlanta United advance. He made the difference. He made key stops. You needed stuff like that from Messi and Suarez in this series. You needed them to take their game up another level and make the difference. And they didn't. Defense was weak, absolutely. But the defense has been weak all year, and we know that. So guess what? The attack has to compensate for those defensive issues and those defensive deficiencies. And they didn't. Especially, this goes back to what we argued about earlier, or debated, or exchanged opinions, as Tata said yesterday. Not debate, but exchange opinions. Mm-hmm. I'm going to use that with my girlfriend next time. We're not arguing. We're exchanging opinions. But the attack with an extra player has to overcompensate for giving at the back. Remember when the season started, Jose? We talked about what was Inter Miami's propuesta. What were they proposing on the field? And at that point, we knew the defense was the weakness. But at that point, Inter Miami was very attack-minded. And they were like, all right, like the idea was that if we give up 3, we're going to score 5. Mm-hmm. That was Inter Miami's approach to the start of the season. As the season went on, and Tata Martino lost players to international duty, to injuries, etc., he started reconfiguring the team. And he found a different team and a different way to play, which became more defensive-minded, which you guys have not liked. You two have not liked the style. But it got the job done in terms of results. The regular season shows you that because they lost only 4 times. Regardless of if they were convincing to you guys or not, they got the job done with results in games over a long period of time.
I think this was Crónica de una muerte anunciada, Franco. I saw it, and I've been. People here can accuse me of being biased or whatever, or Real Madrid fan. That I don't know what I get called in Ronaldo's speech, something like that, some nickname like that. But I've been telling you this the whole season. And for me, it's a crónica de una muerte anunciada. And unfortunately, it happened against Atlanta. I could have imagined it happening against Columbus or Cincinnati, but not against Atlanta. So that makes it even more unacceptable.
Yeah. Look, I think there's another talking point here. They need to find a way to play with a 4-man backline as well. I mean, there's one thing that you believe or we believe what's best, but it's also a reality, and Tata said it, that they leave a lot of room behind when they play with a 4-man backline. So why didn't they figure that out? I mean, playing with a 4-man backline, it's not like you're playing with one center back. I mean, you have 4 defenders. find a way to make it work.
So we're
Find a way.
before we look forward to, because we need to start wrapping this up here, because I know Jose, you gotta run, I think. Before we look forward, we're gonna look backward very quickly and listen to Tata. Because that back four, that back five, that's gonna be a big talking point going into the offseason, how they address the defense if they want to compete at an even higher standard next year. But let's listen to Tata. Because when you asked him, Jose, you asked him a question, it was about Benjamin Kremaski. He just took a bigger picture in the response. And this goes into what you were just talking about. So let's listen to Tata Martino.
Mira, yo creo que el equipo, independientemente de actuaciones individuales, hizo lo necesario en los 3 partidos y en la búsqueda de cada uno de ellos no nos separamos demasiado de lo que veníamos haciendo. Es decir, si la diferencia importante del primer y segundo partido respecto al de hoy, claramente es que al jugar con línea de 4 y decidir poner un jugador más de ataque, el rival pudo correr más a los espacios, que era justamente lo que en líneas generales habíamos evitado en los 2 primeros partidos. Pero así todo, creo que el equipo permanentemente lo buscó, a veces de forma acertada, a veces un poco más con desesperación, sobre todo en la recta final.
So he acknowledges, which is, I think Tata Martino had a great season, but I think he made his biggest mistake yesterday. He acknowledges that by playing 4 at the back, they took more risks. And they ended up losing because they took those risks. You can say it didn't happen on the counter, but this team that is already weak defensively, that was going to be missing Yannick Bright, who is a defensive steal, who helped bring some balance, some equilibrio to this team because of how he won and recovered the ball. They just lost everything defensively. I don't blame the defense. The defense is what it is. Like if I threw Jose Armando, who is no taller than me, and I think I'm 5'7", 5'8", we're around there. If I threw you in goal, Jose, I can't expect you to be a standout goalkeeper. If these defenders are not that good, can't expect much more from them. But you need to help put them in positions to succeed. The back 5 did that. The back 5 helped mask those deficiencies. Now what happens going forward? Inter Miami absolutely has to address that back line. How do they do that? Well, let's see what MLS does first with its roster rules. Does it open up the purse strings? Does it try to maximize Messi's time here by giving MLS teams more flexibility to sign bigger players? If they do, I think Inter Miami has to go out and get a center back. I also think if you're looking at other positions to upgrade, you probably need a backup defensive midfielder. You're probably going to play a little bit differently next year with Yannick Bright, with Sergio Busquets. I don't know how they're going to figure out that midfield, but something's going to change there. Something clearly, Tata Martino was in love with Yannick Bright's performances for a reason, because he gave them that steel, that muscle. They need a backup defensive midfielder. They need a center back. I think Drake Callender's probably gone this offseason. I don't see him coming back. Doesn't fit the style that this team wants to play. He's not good with the ball at his feet. While he can win you a game with some key saves, don't think he's lights out every single week. He has issues, mistakes. I don't see Drake Callender coming back. Now, people will say, Tata out. There's been a lot of that. FLL just left in the comment section, Tata out. Do you guys see Tata leaving or getting the axe this offseason?
No, I don't. Just because it's MLS. But any other place in the world, well, I'll add something to that. Because it's MLS and because of Messi and that relationship and how he handles Messi. I think that might be the main reason why he stays. Unless Xavi makes a call and he convinces Messi, hey, listen,
or Fabregas, who was there yesterday and it's without a job.
Unless something like that happens, then I don't see Tata moving on. Again, I don't think he had a bad season. I don't think he had a bad season. It's just, he took a risk in the third game of the 3-game series. And I would have taken the risk because I'm taking the risk based on the fact that I have Messi. And I would expect Messi to take me through, and he didn't. So, I
it was an unnecessary risk.
But in terms of results, any other place in the world, any top team in the world cannot accept that, of course. So he will be fired any other place.
I
Talking
agree.
about the top level leagues, of
I agree
course.
with that. If he was in a different,
Not only in the top level leagues, and I think any league in America, any other league in America,
I think
the continent, right?
most
Don't
places
get
that
it.
where expectations would be high, I think he'd probably get fired after something like this. Right, and a lot of fans are asking for him to be axed because he probably didn't do what he needed to do to get the most out of this team when it mattered most.
And they're probably writing from overseas.
Well, listen, I mean,
Yeah.
I agree with you that I don't think he gets it. Whether he should or shouldn't, and if I said should he, I mean, he's had a year and a half. Again, most places he probably gets the axe. So when I say should he get fired, probably if this was anywhere else in the world. But because this is MLS, because it's there's they stress longer term, they stress the vision, they stress the plan. He'll get another year. He'll get another season to try to fix these mistakes and win something of note. So I expect him to be back next year.
And Jose, as Jose was saying, Messi fans are the ones calling for Tata out because Tata didn't win anything with Messi in his career. In Barcelona, he had a good team with Neymar, Suarez, Messi, Sergio Busquets, Xavi, Iniesta, everyone, and they didn't win. He got fired after the year. Then they lost Copa America. He didn't win anything with Messi, so I understand Messi fans don't like Tata Martino because
Well,
of
he
that.
talked about it. He talked
And
about it a few weeks ago.
yeah,
Like he said, like, well, I can't remember exactly the phrase, but he acknowledges that his time with Messi, he did. He didn't win like he was supposed to.
exactly.
So I'm
So
sure. Look, I think last night when he came, when he talked to us, uh, I could see in his eyes that he felt it. He felt the
yeah,
disappointment.
I
He
Well,
felt like
he didn't shake Rob Valentino's hand when the final whistle blew. Now that could be likely is due to the fact that Atlanta scored
yes.
the game-winning goal while Thomas Avidas was down. But again, I mean, I think those are sour grapes because
I only think I only saw I was on the field and I only saw two players from Inter Miami go and congratulate players from Atlanta United, and those two players were Sergio Busquets and Leonardo Campana. No one else. No one else. No one from La Banca and staff and that. No one congratulated Atlanta. Only Busquets and Leonardo Campana. And that tells you the class of Busquets because Busquets is a classy player, right? Um, his experience. He's a world champion. He's one of the best at.
it speaks to the hurt that they had, man. They expected a lot more. Look, during the week, Jose, you and I spoke on the preview pod. Inter Miami was very nonchalant about things. Very like, oh, even Tata Martino, when Michelle Kaufman, our colleague at the Miami Herald, opened the pregame interview with him about it's win or go home, it's a very important game, Tata Martino jokingly responded, "Que dramática, Michelle." Like he was clearly trying to downplay the pressure that
Yes.
that this game had, right? And that trickled down because anytime any of us, including you, Jose, asked any players this week about pressure, they kept saying things along the lines of, "Oh, we don't feel pressure." That Leo Campana compared it to people doing other things in other walks of life and not doing what they love to do, and some people not being able to feed their families. And they try to downplay the pressure so much as if they were really trying to keep them things light in training going into this game, like as if they just wasn't taking with the seriousness it needed to be taken with. Like they was taking a little bit for granted that they had another team that was there against them that could beat them. Like that's how it felt, at least to me. That's how it felt.
And that responsibility was big with Inter Miami because it's not only MLS Cup, it's not only the project of the team and that it's about internationally because Gianni Infantino gifted them the participation in the Club World Cup, and before a champion was crowned in MLS just because they won the Supporter Shield, right? And so everyone in the world right now is not only because of it's Messi, and everyone in the world is talking about why did Inter Miami get invited to the Club World Cup? They cannot even win their local competition. They are not going to be the champions, and they're going to be in the tournament. So
Well, but FIFA made the right call, no doubt about it, right? I mean, if they waited for the MLS champion to give out the last spot in the Club World Cup, they might have been in trouble because they clearly wanted into Miami. So they saw the first chance and they took
Yeah,
it.
and they took it exactly. So, and that's right now. That's even more noticeable because with Inter Miami's uh, um, um, game yesterday, I
Yeah, a
saw
lot
the
of people
news from
talking about it.
everywhere.
Yeah.
Everyone is complaining about that because you got teams that were fighting in the Champions League, in Asian Champions League, African Champions League, and Libertadores and everything that are not going to the tournament, but Inter Miami is. So that's also a big pressure that I didn't see Inter Miami take it seriously.
Not with the level of seriousness they should
Yeah,
have, knowing what
exactly.
was at stake. Knowing what was at stake.
Exactly.
But again,
Yeah.
I chalked that up to Tata Martino on the staff trying to downplay the pressure to try to keep things light, which maybe, again, I can understand, just like with the tactics, I can understand the thought process behind it, but I don't agree with it. And I didn't agree with the tactics. Well, so you saw me walking into the stadium. You came over with a big smile on your face, and you're like, because you finally got your back for a more attack.
No, because I told you that was Tata.
Right, you
I
got
told
a
you
more
that's what
attack-minded team.
Tata is going to do, and you disagree with me. So I was
Correct. Yeah.
pointing it out to that specific point.
Because I didn't see, and I tweeted this before the game, I didn't see any way possible with the absence of Bright that this team was going to play a back four, and they did. And again, to me, that was very costly. I think if Tata Martino could go back and redo the game, I think he redoes the game. I think he goes to a back five. You guys don't think that? Because there's sometimes coaches are like, if I could redo the game plan, I wouldn't change a thing. You've heard coaches say that. If Tata Martino could go back in time, knowing what he knows now, do you think he sticks with that back four? I don't think so, man.
I think he sticks with the back four
I think
because
it too because Matias Rojas scored in the first minutes.
no, and
he didn't
because
play well. Just because you scored does not mean you played well.
he did start the play on the second goal as well, Matias. But
Yeah, he
I
was
think he'll stick.
impactful.
I think he'll stick with the same plan just because he didn't have enough for the 5-man backline to be successful.
Yeah, I agree
You know,
with
he
that.
didn't have enough, so he would be
Especially
giving the
on the
ball away
middle,
to
Franco,
Atlanta.
because okay, you bring Noah
But
Allen,
Noah Allen will
Noah
come
had a
in.
monster game in Atlanta. Dude,
and they lost.
They lost when they switched to a back four when they were pushing for it.
Yeah,
We're not
they
going to
lost.
see it.
Noah
Yeah,
Allen
let's
wasn't on
not
the
go
field
back
when
to
they
that.
lost.
Let's not go back to that because it's pointless. It's
Okay.
pointless.
For you guys, going forward, we all are in agreement that Tata will stay, yes?
Yes.
Mhm.
Okay. What is the most important thing Inter Miami has to address this season? What position has to be addressed for you guys? Is it goalkeeper? Is it center back? Is it striker? Is it another defensive
I
midfielder?
think
Is
it's
it a right
very
back?
easy. I think that's an easy answer. I think they need to find a way to, without spending all the money that they have left, they need to find a way, and maybe they can do it within MLS. They need to find a way to get another center back, maybe two, because
I don't think they need to.
Christoph might not be here. They need to figure out whether Freire or David Martinez will stay.
Freire's loan is up.
Neither
also.
one. Neither one.
Yeah,
neither one is the answer. Neither one of them.
Well, they need two center backs then.
And,
Joe-
and
Joe
can I
said-
say something? Can
Joe
I
said
say
this-
something?
Not wrong one. That's
Oh.
what got it. Joe Ucel was a center back, full stop.
Yeah, they need.
Yes.
They need
Not
they
only
need a
center
couple,
backs,
for me, they
the
need a
whole
couple
defense.
of center backs.
Yeah.
They need a couple of center
A
backs.
right back.
I mean, they
Yedlin back.
need a right back, at least a backup. At least a backup. They don't have a backup right now.
No,
You know,
they won't
and
have
Freire,
Chelo
we don't know how he's
Wagan's.
gonna come back.
Chelo Wagan's loan is up right now.
Hold
But
on.
he has an
Hold
option.
on. Hold on.
He
We
has an
know.
option.
Listen, they have to upgrade a bunch of positions, and as we get into the offseason,
Not a
we get-
bunch.
enough. They have a place. They have multiple spots they need to upgrade if they can upgrade them with whatever MLS salary budget rules are in place. But I said the biggest thing that they have to address going into next year, and you guys giving me like multiple positions. Biggest one, center back. Is that
They
are
need
we
center
all in
backs.
agreement?
Yes.
Yeah,
Right.
they need center
Okay.
backs.
Now let's go over. Let's analyze and go over why. Thomas Aviles is a young player who this year is going through some
Not
growing
good.
pains, and he's very hit or miss. Very hit or miss. If you want to be a championship team, is that going to be good enough?
No, he didn't have a good year.
Nicolas Freire was injury prone before he got here and showed that he was injury prone during his time here. Can you count on him, healthy next year, to go through an entire season? Are you going to take that gamble? Are you going to take that risk? I don't see you can. I don't think you can.
Here's where it gets interesting for me. If he becomes a big hit in the budget, then you don't pick him. But if it's not that big a hit, I would take a chance on him.
But we're talking about being a starter, Jose. A starter.
Right. Yeah. He's a solid MLS.
So you would bet on him, right, being able to last. That's because you're projecting him to be a starter. That means you're projecting him to be a starter the entire season. You would be okay. You would feel comfortable with Nicolas Freire knowing his injury history.
Yeah, I mean, again, if that doesn't mean that I'm gonna spend a lot of money,
he's going back to Pumas. Everyone that's on loan is going back. They will not pay. Boca is asking for millions for Marcelo Weigan. It's not worth it. Pumas is asking for millions for Nicolas Freire. It's not worth it. He's still injured. And Inter Miami is not in a position to make those changes. For me, in my personal opinion, Inter Miami needs to go and get players who are already experienced in MLS. As I said this when they changed Yedlin and brought Marcelo Weigan, and I still stand by that. It was a mistake. Yedlin is better than Marcelo Weigan. I would sign that, and I will die saying that after this year. Absolutely. And they need to bring players who are already accustomed to MLS. They can bring players from outside like they did Redondo and Diego Gomez, but it took time. It took time for them to get accustomed. So it's taking time for Aviles. It took time for Marcelo Weigan. It took time for Nicolas Freire. It took time. I think the one that took less time is David Martinez, but because David Martinez is higher quality than any of the other ones. Not that he is starting potential in Selección Argentina or Selección Paraguay, but he is better than the rest of them. So Inter Miami needs to.
Andrea, you gave me multiple positions again, Andrea.
I'm talking about center backs.
But you just talked about Chelo. You talked about
because I count him in defense. But if I'm bringing Chelo because of that example that they replaced an experienced MLS player for someone who wasn't a big. So now they need to concentrate in getting players that are ready to perform in MLS, players that have experience in MLS.
Well, that's tough to find as well because in MLS, there's not a lot of good defenders.
Well, Miles Robinson was available and Cincinnati got him and not Inter Miami. Why? Because they prefer to bring players from outside.
Right. But you're naming one.
But you also need players that fit what Tata wants to do. So unless Tata's changing up his tactics or his idea going into 2025, correct.
That's what Messi wants to do.
Listen, point blank, they need a higher quality center back. A higher quality center back might allow you to play a back four. Listen, if they can upgrade both of them, then that'd be ideal. But I mean, it's MLS. There's still salary cap constraints. But let's just go with the assumption that they could upgrade one. A much better center back helps maybe overcome some of those Tomas Aviles mistakes. A higher quality center back allows you to play four at the back. A higher quality center back allows you to have the other attacker like Matias Rojas, and you can feel a little bit more secure, a little bit more safe, a little more seguro at the back, that if something comes the other way or the breakdowns aren't going to be there like they were against Atlanta, you need a higher quality center back. And I think it's going to be at that left center back position. Tomas Aviles is a young player. They've invested in him. I don't think he's going anywhere. I think it's that left center back spot. Nicolas Freire, injury prone. David Martinez, he's probably a good third center back option in Major League Soccer.
Right.
Is he starting caliber on a team that wants to win a championship? Probably not. I'm not saying he's not a good center back. He could be a starting center back for a lot of teams in MLS. But for a team that has championship aspirations, is he good enough? I don't think so. I think you need to pay a pretty penny if the budget allows it. Probably not going to happen now. You got to go into the open market and find a center back of a higher caliber. I'm not saying Sergio Ramos. I'm not saying you got to find this big name.
Big name.
But it needs to be a step up from what was there this year.
But I'll tell you what, David Martinez can compete with Toto Aviles for a spot. He can compete. I mean, they're not very far ahead.
One's right footed, one's left footed. It's not
correct. Yes, so but if they have a right center back available, they might go for it. They might go for it because if it's the right player, and Toto Aviles is gonna have to, come off the bench or play well, they won't play Open Cup, but Leagues Cup or any other tournament, and don't be a regular starter, they can actually rely on David Martinez. Let's not pretend like David Martinez is worse than Toto Aviles or that they
No,
cannot
he's
count on
better.
him. He can start for this team if
Yes.
he has the right partner. That's the one thing as
Agree.
well that we have to take into account. Why is David Martinez not overperforming? Maybe he doesn't have a lot of help in Toto Aviles. Toto
100%
Aviles
agree.
makes a lot of mistakes, bad judgment constantly.
He's a young
The
player.
entire
That
season.
happens with young players.
For whether it's a big game or just any regular season game, he makes mistakes. So, I mean, I see your point that Tata likes him and the team rates him, but if anybody else comes in with the right mindset and proves Tata that they can actually take his spot, it's not gonna take a lot for that player to do it.
For you guys, all right, I think we're all in agreement. Center back is the number one position that has to be upgraded. Just very quickly, you don't have to give me the reason why. I just want to hear a position. Start with that.
Midfield.
What position has to be addressed second?
Midfielder.
If center back is number one, what is number two?
Midfielder.
Which
A
what's
midfielder.
type?
Huh? Diego
Okay.
Gomez is leaving, so you need to replace him.
So
You need to replace Diego Gomez.
a box-to-box midfielder.
Yeah, un volante mixto. Like
Okay.
Diego Gomez.
Jose, do you agree with that? Is it goalkeeper? Is it right back?
No, they need a goalkeeper. And I told you I told you guys this the first day of preseason. They need another goalkeeper. The reason why Drake Callender didn't perform this year is because he had no competition at all. No competition. For me, Drake Callender wasted a year because he needed to have a solid backup, a goalkeeper that would actually test him every day in training. But Drake Callender knew from day one until last night that he was the starter of this team. No matter what, he was the starter of this team. And the only reason why Ustari played is because Ustari, we know the relationship that he has with Messi and Tata. That's the only reason why he got that opportunity. And CJ Dos Santos got an opportunity because, you kind of have to give him a chance. He can't be on the team for 2 years and play one game. So you need to find a way. You need to find a way to give him minutes.
Let's quickly listen to Drake Callender post-game yesterday, talking about the loss and being eliminated from the playoffs.
This is motivation for next year. It sucks. It hurts. Wanting to get more for our fans, for the people who support us all year long, home and away. This one will definitely stick with me, and that will kind of keep the fire going to get better next year and give more and do more. And, you can reflect and question, what went wrong, what you can do better, how to improve, how to fix things. It'll definitely take some time, but again, like life moves on, and there's only so much benefit from living in the past. But again, hindsight 2020, I can look back and say, all right, I should have done this, and this, but in the moment, it is what it is.
That end part of that comment, saying, looking back, hindsight, you could look back and say, I should have done this, this, and this. When Brad Guzan was on one end of the field, and Brad Guzan's a much more experienced player, he's played in England, he's played for the U.S. national team, he's played at a very high level. But while Brad Guzan was making game-saving stops, Drake Callender did not come up with any at the other end. And that, while he has been shown he's capable of it at times, that to me says that they need an upgrade at goalkeeper. They need to change.
He had nothing to do with the goals, though.
At some point, your goalkeeper has got. Listen,
no, I don't think they need to change their calendar. I don't agree with that, Franco. I think they need to bring a second goalkeeper that's a real competition for Drake Callender, but not to change Drake Callender. Drake Callender is better than even goalkeepers that have been champions, even the goalkeeper of Columbus, even more goalkeepers than what have won, even the Matt Turner. And Drake Callender is at that same level. So I don't think you need to, for MLS, he's enough. I just
I don't agree with
think
that.
he needs to recover that level that he had playing with Phil Neville when he had Nick Marshman competing for being the first one. That's what you need, competition. And that's why you see teams in Europe get two players, two goalkeepers, good goalkeepers. Even though one is the starter, you get a second decent goalkeeper to have competition, to really come up for the so the other player can come up and keep
Yeah,
up their performances.
I think for
Jose,
Drake, it's
Jose,
more
Jose,
about the day to day, more than the games.
Jose.
It's
Yeah.
about the day to day. He didn't show
Jose,
any progress.
yesterday you were, you were next to me on the right. I know Andre was on field level, but you were to the right of me, so I saw your reaction. You said yesterday on multiple plays, Drake, Callender, Drake, on plays where Atlanta United started attacking into space on counters,
That's what
where
I'm
Drake
talking
Callender could have come off his line and maybe put the fire out. But he's not that type of goalkeeper. When we saw Oscar Ustadi, make his only appearance this year, and I think it was against Toronto FC, he came off his line repeatedly. He's more experienced, more seasoned, maybe more aggressive of a goalkeeper, but you saw that from him. It's just not
He's
in
not
Drake
even
Callender's
good.
nature. But
Drake
it's not in
Callender
Drake,
is better than Ustadi.
but Drake Callender, it's not in his nature to be that type of goalkeeper.
That's
and on a
exactly
team,
what we're talking about, Frank.
Por eso,
We
Jose,
need
no, but
you.
Andres-
Inter Miami
Andres-
needs someone like Marsman, a second goalkeeper that it's like Marsman that can help Drake Callender in training every day, and that can be a real competition. Because I like CJ Dos Santos, but he doesn't have experience. He's no threat
I
for
don't
Drake Callender.
agree. I don't
Ustari is not a
agree.
threat to Drake Callender. And Cole Jensen is not a threat for Drake Callender. So you need
I don't
that.
agree with you guys that the next position should be a number 2 goalkeeper. I think if you're addressing goalkeeper, you're addressing to get a number 1 goalkeeper, not to get a backup goalkeeper to push your number 1.
Which
I think you
MLS
need to get number
goalkeeper
1.
is better than Drake Callender? Tell me, who would you bring?
Listen, I'm not saying you bring an MLS goalkeeper. I'm saying you need to bring in a better goalkeeper. But there are a lot better goalkeepers than Drake Callender in MLS.
Who?
Pedro
That's
Valencia,
free.
Andre Blake. No, they're not free. That's what I'm saying.
Okay.
I'm not saying you bring in an MLS goalkeeper. If you're going to get a goalkeeper, you got to bring in someone that's better than your current number 1. You don't bring in a number 2 to push your number 1. You bring in a better number 1 because your number 1 now hasn't been good. Look, also, very quickly, so I can round out the idea. Inter Miami is clearly a team that wants to play with possession. They want to be in the opposing half, knocking the ball around with their attacking talent. That means just spacing behind, whether you play with a back 4 or a back 5, whatever the case is. So that means that they're playing high up the field. Their lines are avanzadas, right? You need a goalkeeper that is going to be able to thwart some danger when those plays get in behind your center backs. You need a goalkeeper that, like we saw with Ustadi, can put out those fires.
Franco, you saw Ustadi one game. He wasn't playing. He's just here because
I am not saying
friend.
Ustadi. I am not saying
You're not
Ustadi.
How many Neuers do you
Andrea,
see in MLS?
I am not saying Ustadi. I am not saying Ustadi's the guy. I'm saying you need someone.
But you're asking for a goalkeeper like Neuer, and tell me how many goalkeepers do you see that in MLS?
What, you're telling me that there's no goalkeepers in the international market that race off their lines, that put out fires, that can head the ball to safety without using their hands if it's not in the 18-yard box? There's goalkeepers like that. But you have to go find them. You have to go find them. They need to upgrade this position. Drake Callender, look, we're completely missing one of the biggest points. Drake Callender's not good with his feet. Has he made progress? Maybe.
Yes.
Maybe.
Maybe.
But he's still not good. He's still not good. He's still not good with the ball at his feet.
He's not great.
Okay, and a team that's possession-based that needs you to be comfortable with the ball at your feet, he's not good enough. I don't think he's good enough all around for this system.
You have a point, but the reality is that why is Drake Callender not at the level that you are demanding from him? Why is that? Why is it that we didn't see a lot of progress from him this year?
I just don't think.
To our point.
I don't think he's that great. I don't think he's that great.
He had no competition. No competition, so he couldn't continue to develop. He didn't see the necessity to do something else to better his game. He didn't see the necessity to, okay, this team is playing out of the back, so I really have to get good at this. He worked on it, but he worked it with no pressure at all. He worked knowing that, okay, it's going to take me 3 months, 4 months to get better. That's fine, because nobody's going to take my spot. If you have somebody behind you that's good with the ball, moving the ball out of the back, then you are immediately trying to get better, not waiting 3 or 4 months to be good with the ball, moving it out of the back. You know, that's the day.
And let's not forget that Drake Callender won them their only trophy. You're saying that he didn't perform, and he did in the most important moment in their
One
history until now,
game,
right?
Look, they
one
need to
game
bring.
does not make
I
a
don't know.
career.
They
One
need to
game
bring
does
a
not make
goalkeeper.
your
But
time.
he had a good Leagues Cup. You were in this program saying that.
Correct.
So
But
that's
what,
what
Andrea,
you don't make sense.
one tournament does not make a career. And that was last year. This year's a different year, and he was not anywhere near as good. You can chalk it up to Nick Marsden not being here. You can chalk it up to number 2. To me, from what I see from him, he's not great enough, good enough. He's not good enough for a team like Inter Miami that has expectations of winning a championship team. Can he be good for another MLS team? Is he a good MLS goalkeeper that can be a great MLS goalkeeper? Maybe. I don't think he can. I don't think he has what it takes to be a great MLS goalkeeper. I think he has what it takes to be a good MLS goalkeeper that sometimes has a very good game, like a great game, like a game-changing performance. But consistently, is he good enough for a team with expectations this high? Jose, how many goals have we seen that he made mistakes on?
Right, he didn't have a good season, but the goalkeeper that you're looking for, this team can't afford. They can't
Exactly.
afford.
That's
They
why
can't
I
afford
ask
the
you, who
goalkeeper
is
that
like
you're looking
Neuer, who
for.
is available? There's
They
no,
don't have enough.
and they are
They
not
don't
gonna
have
come
enough.
to Inter Miami. That's
They
what I was
have
asking.
to pay. They have to pay Luis Suarez next year. They have to pay him. They
Listen,
have to.
I will
He
share
scored
this.
25 goals for them this year.
I'll share this. I mean, and this is part of this is not new news, not new information. The roster rules are going to change this winter.
Right.
From what I've heard, it's expected to change somewhat drastically. Inter Miami is hoping to build a mega team next year. A mega team. There's going to be upgrades of positions with more money allowed to be invested into the roster because, and this is one of the main reasons from what I've heard. So this is information. This is not supposition. This is information. MLS and Inter Miami don't want to just go to the Club World Cup to compete and get knocked out in the group stage. They want to get out of the group. Before Andrea starts laughing and saying, oh, they're not going to have any chance of winning. Again, that's not what I'm saying. They're not saying that they want to win it. But no quieren papelón. They don't want to go to the Club World Cup and get played off the field 6-0 by Real Madrid or whoever they play from Europe's elite. They want to be able to somewhat at least compete to the point where they at least give themselves a fighting chance to get out of the group. So in order to do that, they need to be able to invest more money. That's what I've
going
heard.
to do the same.
That's what I've heard.
I think, Franco, that doing that, what you're doing, it's like playing with expectations and saying, oh, we're gonna do this, we're doing that. Messi's already been here 1 year and a half. The changes that we saw were nothing this year, so I expect the same. I may be wrong, but I expect the same as last year. Changes that are minimal.
I'm just telling you what I've heard.
Everything because Messi is just only here for 1 more year.
Look,
and
regardless of how many superstars they can bring next year, Jordi's going nowhere, Messi's going nowhere, Bus is going nowhere, Suarez is going nowhere, and they are not going to bring any players at a higher level than what they are.
Again,
let's be clear. Let's be clear about it. They're not
you cannot go selling that doesn't exist, at least in this moment, Franco.
I'm telling you what I'm hearing. The rules are going to change drastically this winter. That's what I'm hearing. This is not, I just made this up. I'm hearing that the rules are going to change drastically this winter.
They can change.
Make of that what
the
you
team
will.
is not going to. The team is not going to change drastically. Mm-hmm. You can bring big names. Let's say they bring Neymar. Neymar is hurt constantly. Neymar will be in Miami.
Why does that have to be Neymar?
Party all night long.
Sergio Ramos is 40.
What if it was
Di Maria? What if it was Di Maria?
There's no guarantee as well. Have you seen Di Maria play with the national team?
No, because he retired from the national team.
Right, but did you see the last couple of months with him? He was great in the World Cup, and then he struggled as well with injuries. I mean, there's no guarantee.
The national team and MLS not bring the same thing, Jose.
Yeah, but if that is the case, then Messi should have won MLS Cup last year and this year.
This year is the perfect example.
Exactly.
This year is the perfect example. You bring big names. That's no guarantee. That's not guarantee. But again, we were talking about Drake Callender and a goalkeeper. Look, if the rules change, okay, maybe they find a way to bring a good goalkeeper. But as of right now, they haven't changed. So I can't tell you that they can bring the goalkeeper that you're looking for.
I'm telling you what I'm hearing. The idea is to have a decent, respectable showing at the Club World Cup. With the way rules are constructed right now, very hard to do. Unless you play lights out and above and beyond, some of your parts, very hard to do. So expect the roster rules to change this winter. How much? I don't know. How much, but I've heard it's going to be drastic enough.
Owners would agree to compromise the future
I don't think
of the
owners would
league.
agree to that,
Okay.
especially
Inter
because
Miami
Messi
to have-
didn't win anything,
to have
and
an
their
improved
teams are
season.
gonna
If you
keep
want- if you
winning
want to
MLS
debate-
Cup.
If you want to debate the information I've heard, hey, that's fine. But this is not a supposition. This is what I've heard. We'll see what happens this offseason. We'll see it.
Right,
I would
we'll see.
speak. We'll see. But this is what I've heard. All right. We've gone an hour and a half. Jose, I know you have to run. You should have
Yes.
run a while ago. So we're going to leave it with some final thoughts. The floor is going to be all of ours individually. I will start with Andrea. You can summarize the season. Talk about whatever you want to talk about.
I
to
just
round up the
think I've been consistent the whole year. I haven't changed my thoughts this season. Everything was expected from Inter Miami. They didn't make anything. I said at the beginning of the season I didn't expect them to win CONCACAF. I didn't expect them to win MLS Cup. With the roster that they have, with the direction that they have, and all of that happened. I just don't want to offend anyone, but I just analyzed the football, and at the end, ball don't lie. The ball didn't lie. Inter Miami are out in the playoffs. I thought it would have happened after the first round, after those 3 horrible games in this format, but it didn't. And for me, the signings, as I said a couple of minutes ago, Crónica de una muerte anunciada, the signs were there. Of course, Messi, Luis Suarez, having them on the team can create that mirage that Inter Miami was a big team, but they weren't. They weren't at the end of the day. They weren't because they couldn't perform in the moments that they needed in the Champions Cup, in Leagues Cup, in MLS Cup, in MLS playoffs. So for me, the season is a failure, and they should do better. They need to do better next year because it's Messi's last year. And if MLS and Inter Miami want to have an impact for Messi, because Messi is having his impact in America, Messi is in every channel, Messi is in every store, his image is everywhere in this country. But Inter Miami and MLS are not getting any of that. So the next year is going to be the last chance for them to get that. And hopefully they take advantage of that because this year they didn't.
Jose?
Well, I think this year didn't get started the right way with the preseason tour. We talked a lot about it, about the challenges that that would end up providing for the rest of the season. I think it's hugely disappointing that they couldn't make it out of the first round. I think I'm stating the obvious there. But in terms of individual performances throughout the year, I think the one highlight that we can and that we have talked about is Diego Gomez. I think he was a good player for Inter Miami. It was fun to watch him develop. We criticized him last year when he came in and he was just trying to overpower everybody, play at a different pace than everybody else. And, he did adjust because he had competition around him. And this year was completely different. So I'm going to stay with the positives. I think Diego Gomez, it was fun to watch. But overall, just another disappointing year. Crazy to say it with Messi and Suarez, but another disappointing year for Inter Miami. I don't think we have had a season so far, and for us that have covered from day one, we haven't had a season where we have this podcast at the end of the year and we're talking about positive thoughts. We're always looking for ways for this team to get better and to become a global brand. Maybe that's the one thing that they did accomplish this year. But other than that, I think they also struggle, especially late in the season, struggled with the young guys, the future of the team. I think Toto Avilés struggled, Facundo, I mean Federico Redondo struggled. So Benja Kremaski struggled. Even David Ruiz in the middle of the season, after the red card in Monterrey, which it was a huge moment in the season as well, came down. And then because of the national team actually starting to pick it up. So Yeah, I think there are several things that need to be addressed. Overall, a disappointing moment here for Inter Miami, and we'll see what happens next
Say
year.
the
You know,
words, Jose. Say the words. Epic failure.
Messi will be a year older. Luis Suarez, they were. I don't know if it's the way they managed him this year, but he was able to stay on the field. Another positive. Credit to the coaching staff, I guess. So we'll see if that happens again next year. But there's a lot of things that they need to figure out. The main thing for me is it's not possible that this team can only play with a 5-man backline. I mean, find a way to play defense with a 4-man backline. If there's so many teams in the world that can play with a 4-man backline. So many teams in MLS that can play with a 4-man backline. They can play defense. Tata Martino, you coach at the top level. Find a way.
And soccer fan number 8 says, Andrea Quisita sounds extremely negative in her points about this team. It sounds like she, and then there's no more comments. So
I'm just gonna say all my predictions came true this year, right?
I don't know about that. I don't know about
Yeah,
all of
you
them.
said they were going to win MLS
I
Cup, and they
did.
did.
I
That they
did
were
think
gonna advance in
they did.
Champions Cup, they didn't.
100%. That is correct. My
Leagues
final
Cup,
thought.
they were
I
winning.
didn't expect them to win the League's Cup. Jose and Andrea, different final thoughts there. I disagree with a bunch of what each of you said. Jose went with a very positive spin there for a while before trying to bring it back to the reality of the situation. Look, it's an epic failure what happened in this playoff series. Epic failure. That's the only way to put it. Might be hard for Inter Miami fans to hear, or some Inter Miami fans to hear. Might be hard for some Inter Miami employees to hear, but this was an epic failure on the sporting side. You can talk about the marketing, you can talk about the business side. Things are thriving. Yesterday, we got a sample of the new water that has now become Inter Miami's pristine water sponsor, whatever terminology they used. Off the field, great. Things are amazing. But on the field, it's not living up to expectations to this point. This was a massive letdown. There is responsibility across the board. Changes need to be made. I will talk about Tata Martino because, again, we talked about the fact that we don't think he will get fired, where maybe in other countries he would have gotten fired. In MLS, where the vision is for longer term, I think when they look at the balance of everything, they'll say he fell short, but they'll say that during the regular season, he got the most out of this team. During the regular season, que exprimió todo el jugo de limón. He got the most out of, he squeezed all the juice out of the lime. I do think he goes into next season on the hot seat, though. I do think that if the start to the season isn't great, if the Club World Cup in the summer, it's not a good showing there, then I think maybe you could see a change. Because like you guys said, next year is Messi's last guaranteed year here. Could he return in 2026? It's possible. It's possible. But next year is his last guaranteed year here. So I do think that Martino, when Jorge Mas, David Beckham sit down to reflect on the season, they'll say, hey, we'll give Tata another year. But if things are not showing improvements during the first 3, 4, 5 months of the season, let's have somebody lined up for the summer in case we need to make that call.
So and the thing is with the loss, they play at the beginning of February between the two. The 2 and the 3rd, I think it's the first round, because they would have to go and travel to Central America or to the Caribbean. So we're gonna know.
We're gonna get Cibao. No worries.
Cibao, yeah. To the Dominican Republic. Franco, take Miami Total Football Radio to the Dominican Republic or to Tegucigalpa, because the only team from Honduras in the CONCACAF Champions Cup is the best team in the region, in Central America. Motagua Club de Futbol, FC Motagua. So
the last thing to round up the show, Kada asked, will there be another Miami Total Football Radio this year? Yes, there will be. Probably not next week. I am off to Peru and Argentina with my lovely girlfriend for about a week. I will bring you guys your magnets, which Andrea, don't kick me. I forgot.
I was sick for a month. Franco didn't give me my magnets, even though I almost died. And Franco didn't give me my magnets from last trip, so I expect new magnets, a new magnet from Peru, a new magnet from Argentina. I want like at least 5 magnets.
I have your Ecuador magnets right here in my refrigerator, so I told you I'd bring them.
Takes out of every month a 2-week vacation every month, so that's why we cannot have.
That's the life.
Tell you,
Exactly.
So sorry about that. We need to find a way until he finalizes his vacation for this month and next month, and then maybe we'll
they're
be
not
back.
vacations.
Maybe.
They are trips that are being done for research purposes. I'm trying to find the island that Jose resides upon, and I haven't found it yet. So I'm still working on that. Until I find it, I'm going to keep going on these trips.
Well, we should definitely be back for the Champions Cup draw. For
Yeah.
sure.
For sure, we will be back. I hope in 2 weeks, not next week because I get back on Thursday. Be late in the week.
There we go
So
again. Another
in 2 weeks. In 2 weeks, we'll be back after the international break. Hopefully, this year we will get some postseason availability sooner rather than later. In some seasons, some years, it's been much after the season. So hopefully this time it's sooner rather than later. I wouldn't be mad if it's not in the next week and a half because I won't be here. But hopefully it's at some point soon after that so that I can be in attendance. We'll see what.
Don't be surprised if we get a friendly before the end of the year.
No way. This year, no way.
I mean, they're trying to make money, trying to make some more money. I mean, would you think the league would be in agreement to have one more Messi game on Apple TV available for free on Friday? If you sign up, you'll be able to watch the conference semifinals the next day.
No way.
Nobody's paying for that anymore. Nobody's paying for that.
Oh yeah, I mean MLS, Apple TV, Inter Miami lost a shitload of money yesterday. Like everyone was listen. There was a lot of murmurs, a lot of talks, especially among media, that the referee was going to make a decision in Inter Miami's favor if he had to help see them through. That was a conspiracy theory.
Campana was not was not shown a red, and Luis Suarez
there were two free kicks in the game that were a little bit,
Yeah.
That led me to believe. If Messi would have scored one of those two free kicks, then
Franco,
we'll
if Saba did what Campana and Luis Suarez, if Saba did what Campana and Luis Suarez,
that's not the biggest crime in the world, Andres. That's not the biggest crime.
You think if Saba did that, he wouldn't get expelled? He expulsado?
No, I don't. He might get a yellow.
You know what? We will have more Messi coming up when he gets the MVP. So.
I mean now that point is going to be fascinating to me. Because
yeah,
if he wins MVP, he's going to talk about how great.
It's like that.
You know what? I would not be surprised if he does win it, which I do believe he will.
Yes, he will.
That he just makes some general remarks about winning it and how the most important thing was winning the MLS Cup. That they didn't do that, but that he's honored to be named the MLS MVP, and that's it. I don't see a Q&A session. I don't see an interview press conference. I don't see it. I don't see it.
Live event 8 p.m. on Apple TV.
No, I don't see it.
Maybe
Or maybe it's an interview, another interview with Francisco Romano again, right? So.
Or maybe it's with Apple TV's person, whatever. But I don't think it's going to be like an open setting where any of us can go and ask questions.
Yeah, but anyway. Either way, we're going to be back. And I wanted to end up my participation today saying thank you to all the people that supported the podcast, supported our opinions, and that kept watching us for another year. Hopefully you enjoyed the season, even though it wasn't a total win. It was a total failure, epic failure, like Franco said. But we were glad to have you with us. And I want to reiterate that I don't manage the comments. If your comment was not read, it's on Franco. So that's a PSA that I wanted to say again.
I've been getting a lot of messages, and this is information. I've been getting a lot of messages of people telling me, I keep sending messages, but they're not shown on screen. We're watching at home, everybody together, every time you guys come on. And, we all send messages and we don't see them on the screen. Why is that? So, people, just so you know, this is exactly what happened. Andrea just told you.
We went
built us the messages.
Listen, there's a lot of messages. It's hard to talk, look at you guys, think about what we're talking about, press the comment.
So that's the excuse.
Hey, if we had a separate producer, then it'd be a lot more. Man, we could just rattle through all the comments.
So
I wish I could.
Blaming it on the ghost producer of Miami Total Futbol Radio. Okay.
Listen, but we've gone almost an hour and 45 minutes, but this show deserved it, and I do have to close out the show with this because I did not mention it at the beginning, and it's kind of bittersweet, especially for Inter Miami fans. This was our 200th episode of Miami Total Futbol Radio. 200th episode dating back to 2020. Unfortunately, instead of talking about Inter Miami's advancing, it's been about how Inter Miami has failed from a sporting aspect. And That was a lot of questions going into the off season. But 200 episodes, I did not think we would get here when I started this podcast. I did not think we'd be doing video podcasts. I have to thank you guys, you two, a lot for dedicating the time and finding the time in your busy schedules. I know you cover all the major sports to be a part of this family, this community, and the show. Thank you to everyone that pays attention, that tunes in either live or after the fact, people that share their comments here in the live show, people that do so afterwards, either on Twitter or via DMs or on Instagram, or even that just WhatsApp me. I'm free to give out my number if you want to talk Inter Miami. You just want to find a place to do it during the week and you're not active on Twitter or any of the other social medias. Do it. I have plenty of listeners that I do share my thoughts with just via WhatsApp, via text. But thank you to all of you. 200 episodes is crazy number. More things to come, bigger and better things to come. Hopefully next year we can find a routine where we can get some guests on again. I enjoyed when we were doing that when it was audio only. So hopefully maybe we can find a way to integrate that next year. But no, for real, listeners, viewers, thank you guys so much. Jose, Andrea, thank you guys so much. Show could not be done without all of you. So we will leave it there. We will be back in 2 weeks. Don't know when exactly, but we will be back in 2 weeks. So for Andrea Yanes, for Jose Armando, I am Franco Panizo. You have been listening to or watching Miami Futbol Radio, the show. We'll talk to you guys very, very soon.